Good morning and welcome to this panel titled Making Tax Delightful with HMRC. I hope everyone's having an enjoyable and informative QuickBooks Connect experience so far, and hopefully many of your MTD questions, if there's still some outstanding, which I'm sure there is, can be answered over the next 45 minutes. I'm Rob Burleson, Director of Corporate Affairs here at QuickBooks, and I'll be your host for today's discussion. Now, I'm delighted that we've been joined by an MTD all-star cast. But before we jump into the discussion, I'm super delighted that we've been joined by the Financial Secretary to the Treasury and Minister responsible for making tax digital, the Right Honourable Lucy Fraser, QC MP. Lucy, I will hand over to you to say some opening remarks and then we'll jump into the discussion. Minister, over to you.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks to Rob and Intuit for the opportunity to contribute to QuickBooks Connect, to share some thoughts on taxation and the impact that digitalisation can and should have on the way we do things. Let me also express my thanks to the many accountants who are participating in today's event. As a former insolvency lawyer, I've relied on your expertise many times. And as Financial Secretary to the Treasury, I see and understand the crucial role you play in British commercial life, the unsung heroes keeping us all on the straight and narrow. Before I get to the substance of my remarks, I want to briefly acknowledge the situation in Ukraine. We, all of us, continue to monitor events there, and the government has been unequivocal both in its condemnation of the invasion and its support for the Ukrainian people. But our concern for events elsewhere shouldn't derail the other business of government. Addressing the urgent doesn't mean we forget about the important. As Financial Secretary, my focus is on ensuring this country has the very best tax system, one which, in the words of the Chancellor, is fit for the challenges and opportunities of the 21st century. In the simplest terms, the goal is a tax system which is fair, flexible, modern and resilient. And for me, technology is at the heart of that. In July 2020, as many of you know, we published our strategy to modernise the tax administration system, including the need to fully embrace digital technologies. If anything, the pandemic has made that shift both more urgent and more possible. In the last 2 years, businesses have rapidly adapted to more digital ways of working, with reports suggesting that many UK SMEs have implemented years' worth of technological change in a matter of months. The Lloyds Bank UK Consumer Digital Index Survey of 2021 found that lockdown triggered what it called a digital jump forward, pushing the UK to levels of digital engagement now which we might not have otherwise seen before 2025. Clearly, we as the government and the tax authority need to embrace and support that change. The July 2020 strategy document outlined plans to harness technology and digitalisation to deliver a tax system that operates closer to real time. I know that some of you have responded to the consultations HMRC have run on the different aspects of that plan, and I want to thank you for your input. Looking forward, that's the thinking, for instance, behind the single customer account that HMRC are developing, a single point through which taxpayers can access and interact with HMRC online. Over time, as the name suggests, the single customer account will integrate our existing digital accounts into one, bringing together taxpayers' affairs and services online and through other mobile devices in one secure place. By modernising paper and telephone-based processes, the account will make it easier for taxpayers to access HMRC, subscribe to digital services, communicate through tools such as web chat, and receive prompts and support to help get them their taxes right first time. Central to our strategy is making tax digital, which seeks to reimagine the way businesses keep their records and submit updates to HMRC. MTD is designed to reduce taxpayer mistakes and therefore the exchequer losses resulting from them, but it also acts as a catalyst for businesses to become more digital. The first stage of making tax digital, which focuses on VAT, launched in April 2019 and there are already signs that businesses are feeling the benefits. I'll give you an example. There's a local garage in Durham called Tyrex Limited, which has done its tax for the same way for 36 years, until now. Curious, as well as a little nervous, they attended a couple of MTD seminars, got some help from their accountant, and then in their own words, everything just fell into place. They found that with a little effort up front, they saved significant time in preparing their tax affairs. That experience is far from unique. 80% of companies surveyed in 2020 said they found using MTD to file their returns very or fairly easy. We're seeing the dial shift. In advance of the April mandation date for the MTD VAT service for those under the threshold, roughly a third of relevant businesses have already signed up to the service voluntarily. I'm grateful for the way the software industry has played its part in meeting the needs of businesses, with over 500 related products now available, some of them for free. HMRC has today released a peer-reviewed report which shows MTD for VAT is already achieving its aim of cutting out taxpayer errors and generating additional tax revenue. OBR certified forecasts predicted additional tax revenues of £115 million in 2019 to 20, and that's more or less what we saw following this in-depth study. The same report found that smaller VAT-registered businesses who've signed up to MTD voluntarily are actually experiencing a greater reduction in errors than larger businesses. That's VAT. But we're also keen to make progress on income tax. There's the added complexity here. But again, we're seeing the industry stepping up, helping businesses, including sole traders, partnerships, and landlords, to do what's required of them. Part of making all of this easier and more palatable is the provision of free software for those taxpayers with the most straightforward affairs. And mirroring what they did ahead of the introduction of MTD for VAT, HMRC are running an income tax pilot, as part of which they guide users through the MTD process, evaluate their feedback, and test technical and customer support systems. The key point is that the tools we make available to businesses to manage their taxes need to be helpful, easy to use, and intuitively familiar. The objective is to integrate existing digital accounts and digitalize paper-based services, in turn making it easier for taxpayers to understand, view, and manage their tax affairs at the click of a button. I don't want to take up too much of your valuable discussion time, but let me again thank you for your efforts. The transformation we're attempting is a collaborative enterprise. It relies on the industry, and therefore all of you, to develop and deliver the tools which make that transformation possible. We won't get there overnight. Building that fair, flexible, modern, and resilient tax system will be a complex, step-by-step process. But I'm determined, as Financial Secretary, to do what I can, and I look forward to working with you all in the months and years ahead to make it happen.
Thank you, Minister, for that overview. Now, let me jump straight into the discussion. And as I mentioned, we really do have an MTD all-star cast joining me here. I'm delighted to welcome Giles McCallum, HMRC's Director for Making Tax Digital, Judith Dugdale, Head of Digital Solutions at Moore and Smalley Accountants, and Cameron Sheikh, Founder and Managing Partner at Morgan Reach Accountants. Welcome, everybody. After the initial discussion I will have with the panel, we will open it out to the audience. So you should see a Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen. If you want to submit a question, please just open that, put the question in, send it over, and we'll try to get it through as many as we can in the second half of this discussion. But without further ado, let me jump straight into it. And maybe, Giles, if I can bring you in first, can you tell me, just to set the scene, a little bit more about your role at HMRC, and how you're setting up that team for success in what will be inevitably a critical period for MTD.
it's the big target is for the VAT unders in April of this year. Now, my role is really to steer the ship. As director of MTD, I've got a great team behind me, but we can't do this just as one team in an ivory tower. We're absolutely reliant on what I call the 4 customer groups: taxpayers, accountants, the software developers making the software products such as Intuit, and of course HMRC operations that need to administer the tax. So what my role really is to steer that path, making sure we maintain our focus on those customer groups and be able to deliver what we need to deliver by when to make tax digital.
Brilliant, thank you, Giles. Now, we really know that HMRC has been on a journey over the past 5+ years in terms of making tax digital and the digitisation of the tax system. Can you talk to us a little bit about that journey you've been on, but also the role that making tax digital will play going forward in your 10-year strategy?
Yeah, I mean, HMRC's 10-year strategy is well known, and it really is to create a modern and fairer tax system fit for the 21st century. And that means digital, getting closer to taxpayers, getting closer to the way in which a modern economy and a modern society uses digital and interacts with other organizations. And the pandemic has really driven this forward. And we've seen changed behaviors and the adoption of digital channels absolutely forge ahead during that. And what people do in their homes and in their businesses digitally, they want to be able to do that in the way that they operate with HMRC too. We can't have an HMRC that is behind the curve on that digital journey. So the 10-year strategy is all about delivering that and making sure that the expectations on HMRC are met, and that we embrace digitalization for our customers, but also the opportunities and the further opportunities that digitalization brings. And we've got a range of programs in this space, such as single customer account and debt transformation, which are really sort of forging together to achieve that digital journey across the whole of HMRC. And what that will do is build greater resilience that will enable us to be able to better respond, God forbid, to other situations like we've had in the last 2 years, where we can really target our response more effectively because we're closer to our customers.
Thank you. Now, we've heard MTD be described as a bit of a game changer when it comes to paying your taxes. I know HMRC and the Minister announced it at the beginning of this panel, publishing a paper evaluating making tax digital. Can you give the audience some insights into what we'll read in the paper published today?
Yeah, absolutely. The paper looks at how research and analytics, and it was a paper commissioned by HMRC, but peer reviewed by independent academics. Which is important because, to gain that credibility, that MTD is achieving its targets. And this looked at the VAT, and what it found was a 2.2% increase for smaller businesses below the VAT threshold in the payment, in the revenue achieved through their tax liabilities. It isn't about people paying more tax. It's about the tax that is owed actually getting through into HMRC, and that MTD is helping people, helping businesses reduce error, reduce mistakes, such that the correct money is paid, money due is paid. And over the last periods, the tax gap has decreased. Now, part of that has been because of MTD, not entirely, of course, but part of it has been. And 10 billion approximately is lost through simple error. And if we can close that and receive that money, that's 10 billion that can be spent for society, on projects, on policies that help all of us. And that's what this is all about. So the match design report that does come out today really shows that we're on track to achieve what we said we would.
Brilliant. Thank you, Giles. And maybe I can open it out and bring in the other panelists now. Judith, turning to you. It's really interesting to hear about the journey that HMRC's been on, but we know that accountants have also been on their very own Making Tax Digital journey. Can you talk a little bit about the impact Making Tax Digital's had on your business and what's changed for your customers already captured by Mandation?
I'm sure everybody that's watching this that's an accountant will feel the same, that Making Tax Digital for VAT was a huge impact to the sector. We did actually have, a few years before that, the RTI on payroll, which was a form of digitalisation of a tax. That was a bit more straightforward for most of us, because if you were doing people's payroll, you did it all anyway. So it was more just us changing the way we did things. Making Tax Digital for that was very different, because the majority of clients did their own VAT and were very happy filling in paper forms, sending them off, or even going on, some of them were using the website to submit things. The big thing for us was to, first of all, work out who needed the help the most. So we had well over 3,000 clients that we had to get ready for Making Tax Digital for that. So we had to segment them into people that already had software that would be compliant, so those people using QuickBooks Online already. People that were using software but we knew it wouldn't be compliant, or they were part of a group and therefore wouldn't be able to submit. Then you've got the people that were using spreadsheets, and were they actually any good, and would bridging software and those using those spreadsheets be okay? And then obviously a huge amount of smaller businesses who did everything manually still, or very little on a computer. So it was a huge task. And I know it was felt around the whole industry. It was hard work, but I think we probably all did a really good job in getting our clients there. And I know obviously there's the deadline of April of bringing through all those that are voluntarily registered that aren't already signed up for MTD, to get them up and running. And it's really pleasing to see that the vast majority of our voluntarily registered clients are already signed up. So we've not got the same mad push that we did have all those years ago. So that's really promising. And the benefits that our clients have seen, obviously the larger clients didn't see any real change, other than maybe a bit of an increase in the subscription for the software they used, or having to use bridging software. But those smaller clients who were manual, they've gone on to using things like QuickBooks Online, and it has revolutionised how they do their business. They have up-to-date information. We can interact with them on a daily basis, instantly ask us to pop in and have a look at things. It's enabled accountants as well to offer like an outsourced service at a more reasonable level, because you can integrate with different apps and get all your information sent through. So those smaller clients who just couldn't face it because they're maybe going to retire in a few years, they could pass that book to us. We could pick up the mantle, make sure that they were fully digitalised, which wouldn't have actually been the case if we didn't have products like QuickBooks Online. So it really has, whilst it's improved things for HMRC, I'm sure, it has actually improved everything for the individual businesses that now use software to prepare their bookkeeping records. It really does give them an insight day to day on what their business is achieving.
Fantastic to hear, Judith. Look, just digging into one of the points you made there about having a lot of customers in the first phase, but actually many of them voluntary registering this time round. How did you as an accounting firm prepare for the first phase of MTD? And what will you do different, or what are you doing different for this second phase of that?
Yeah, so the first phase, because there was so many, we actually set up a separate team, which is the digital solutions team that I head up now. And our role was, as well as dealing with our own day-to-day clients, was to set up clients that didn't have software on software, provide them with training, and then obviously ongoing support, help them with the actual registration itself. But what we had to do is, luckily we've got quite a good database system, which is all split up by managers and partners. So each manager had the list of their own clients that had to be transitioned to MTD, and everybody else was responsible for that. And we had a live tracker, and every day they had to report back as to how many people that they converted. And what we've done since then is any clients that have set up as a new business and registered for that, we've automatically registered those for MTD at the same time, so that we knew we would never have this problem when the button came again to switch everybody over. And we've been talking to those clients who are voluntarily registered ever since MTD came in to say, you don't necessarily have to do it now, but we highly recommend you do. And to be fair, as soon as you get those people on software, which has been so much easier since MTD because the staff know so much more about what the software can bring to a business, as opposed to it just being a tool to submit your VAT return. Once we tell people about the benefits of using software, they then want to sign up, and then as soon as they sign up to the software, we sign them up to MTD at the same time. So like I said, there's only really those clients that have resisted a move into the cloud or digitalisation we're left with. So that actually this time, there's a group of clients that will be dealt with by their individual relationship team, and then there's another group that will come through to our digital solutions team, and we will handle that, which is probably the more difficult ones.
Okay, thank you. Really, really good to hear about that. Cameron, if I can just turn to you, and I know in our discussions in the build-up to this event, we've discussed what you've done at Morgan Reach to be ready for the second phase of that. Can you share with the audience your approach, how you're helping customers feel comfortable with the change, but importantly, I think, giving them the confidence to move forward?
Thank you, Rob. It has been a challenging journey for us as Morgan Reach as accountants and also for the clients. But we started looking at our client base and started evaluating what we need to do with them. And I think the best way to describe it is the 3 E's. The first E being empathetic. So we're listening to the clients, listening to what they're saying. Why do they think it's not brilliant for them to go onto the software and the platform, and why they can't use it? And all the negative things that have been floating around in the market regarding MTD, in which case you say, well, you're paying too much tax, you're paying the wrong amount, I cannot do this, I cannot do that, who's going to support me, I don't need an accountant. So there was all of these things that were building up in the clients' minds. So the first thing is to be empathetic. Our first E is speak to them, find out what their problems are. Second is evaluate where their business is, sit down with them, listen to them, and tell them how, like Judith mentioned, we can help as accountants to work with them alongside when they do go live. And the third E, which is the most important, is educate. And education is coming on so many channels in terms of sending them emails, having conversations with them, discussing what their business is doing, how their business can do better, and work collaboratively with us when they go onto the online software. So that was a starting point where we were looking at the client base. And in reality, the big change and the big shift came internally, because I believe the biggest issue accountants would face is getting their teams ready to manage the change. And Judith and their firm has been fantastic and forward-looking, where they had a whole team which is doing the digitalization of clients, whereas most accountants would just have the individual managers doing it. But we were the same. We didn't have a team of digital members, but all we did was we targeted our managers to say, you've got a client base, and if you get so many clients over the line up to such and such date, there'll be something nice at the end of the month for you. And it's all performance based. And it was about delivering that message internally and then having everybody internally accepting that change, extrapolating it out. And I think that's important. You have to have the change within for the staff, the team to be on board with you, and then they can go and have the conversations with the clients, because they are sold on the idea, they can convince the clients quite easily.
Brilliant. Thank you, Cameron. Really interesting to hear the journey that you've been on. And I love the idea of 3 E's as well. I think that's going to stick with everybody. And just sort of building down onto that, actually, for the audience listening today, what would be your top tips to encourage them to be MTD ready for phase 2?
This is not something that we can say is one size fits all, but I think accountants are definitely the people, as Giles said, who are a great stakeholder in the whole process. We are the ones who are the trusted advisors for our customers. If the accountants can go back to our customers and go, we believe this is good for you because of, and we can reflect with them, sit down with them and say how we can assist them to have this change and bring about this change, it's important. But every single accountant on the group, every single accountant listening to this would agree with me that there is definitely a huge resistance in terms of people coming across and having those conversations and saying, we don't want to go online, we don't want to go digital, we have to allocate more resource. I am towards the end of my career, I don't want to be doing this. I'm an old dog learning new tricks. And you can imagine the amount of excuses that are coming in. The excuses are, I will end up paying more tax. Oh, is this going to be a bit more difficult? Am I going to get charged a lot more from my accountants? What more information do I have to provide you? And us being the professional advisors, the trusted advisors, we need to be able to push this. For us, our firm, we've categorically said, if we're taking new clients on, they have to be on the digital platform, otherwise we're not doing it. I mean, as close to as of this morning when I came in, and you won't believe it, I've clicked a button to convert one of our clients' data from Sage Desktop to QuickBooks Online Plus. And the reason behind that was very simple. We know you've got everything in place. I know, and we know you can send the data across using Sage Desktop, but we're not comfortable because you're taking backups, sending across to us, we're checking it, sending it back to you, and it's wasting a lot of time. And we will charge you a lot more for that because using our professional services. If you go on QuickBooks Online, we can collaborate live, like Judith said, and it's the best platform you can be on when you want to be checking information correctly together. And the other bits are some of the clients who are resistant to it, we're just bringing in, and QuickBooks has been pivotal in helping us achieve that, because the third E, which is the educate, the QuickBooks team has been fantastic in terms of bringing clients on for the onboarding, teaching them what QuickBooks does. So the heavy lifting is taking care of this end. And then if they have any more technical questions, we've got a couple of members in the team, they can contact them, they're all qualified, and they can then help them and advise them. But I think the change has to come from us. We have to help and hold the hands of our clients. And if they are resistant at first, which most of them would be, all we've got to do is be comfortable, be patient, but be persistent and keep on pushing in a nice manner, and have those soft touches by webinars, emails, reminders, and say to them, guys, we need to do this.
Great tips. Thank you, Cameron. Now, I have one more question left, which I'll ask to all the panelists, and then I will open it out to your questions. If you've not submitted your question yet and you have one, don't keep thinking about it. Get it in and we will get it asked. Final question from me. So MTD was launched in 2019. What's been the biggest learning so far? And maybe if I can go to Giles first, then Judith and Cameron.
So the biggest learning is really that this is absolutely about those 4 customer groups I talked about earlier. There is a perception that this is just for HMRC to refine its operation in administering tax. Absolutely not. This is about us helping society, helping UK become more digital and to reduce error in tax, which then contributes back to society accordingly. I think we're really encouraged by the sign-ups. When we look at the VAT for unders and the sign-ups for that, we're ahead of the journey where we were before with the VAT for overs. And that is really, really encouraging to see. But it's a different story. It is more complex, and we've got to take all of those learnings from VAT and double down on them and make sure that it delivers when it needs to.
Brilliant. Judith.
Yeah, I think for us, the biggest learning curve was changing the language that we use with our clients. Cameron mentioned it before about being more empathetic with them. There was obviously a huge resistance at the start that people they just automatically thought there was an extra cost, didn't want to have that cost, didn't want to be online. And we realised that we had to change the way we spoke to clients, and we had to actually, again, as Cameron said, educate them in terms of what the benefits are, the safety around using online products. Very simply just saying to people, if you shop at Amazon, it's no different to actually having an online cloud-based piece of software, which a lot of people use online cloud-based systems without even knowing they use them. So it was very much learning to speak to our clients in a way that we could be understood a bit more and not be as preachy or as I think a lot of people are scared of what their accountants are going to tell them. I think that they're very black and white and things are right or they're wrong. Whereas actually we've had to be a bit more in, I suppose, consultant-wise and a bit more teacher-wise and explain. So it was a big learning curve for us to change the way that we deal with our clients.
Okay, fantastic insight. Cameron.
Our biggest learning has been that sometimes people don't know what's good for them. And you've got to be assertive. You've got to have that relationship with the client where you can be the person who's going to tell them, you will do this because otherwise you'll be left behind and you'll be in trouble and you'll have more issues. And the reality of the matter is, for our firm, our own target is that we want every single of our client on QuickBooks Online or on a digital platform before Q4 end of this year. And the whole idea behind that is to make sure that we're not rushing around last minute trying to implement. The earlier you implement, the better it is. I have had a plaque in the office with the title Headmaster that was coined by some of our clients who've come across and says, we almost feel like you're the headmaster telling us what to do when we don't want to do it. But sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes you have to be their friend, but also the friend that gives them that firm, assertive advice. You have to do this and you have no choice. If you don't do that, you're out by yourself. And I think this is where the accountants need to be. We, like children, every child is different. You deal with them differently. Same our clients. I've got 4 children. I'll say I've got a lot more than 4 different clients types, but we've got to deal with them on a personal basis. And as long as we understand their problems, as long as we listen and come to their level, it's very easy for us to be able to implement it.
Excellent, thank you. Now, I've had the challenge of trying to collate so many questions that have been coming in to answer the panel. So thank you everyone who submitted questions so far. If maybe I can start, a number of questions have come in around ITSA and the desire for more detail on ITSA as well. I know we haven't really touched on it, though you did a bit, Giles, in your opening remarks, so maybe I can come to you first. Can you give us an insight into where ITSA is and where HMRC is with their preparations and what we can expect in the coming 24 months? And then I'll come to the other panelists in terms of having a look at what you're already doing for ITSA as well. Giles.
Certainly. So ITSA is, it mandates in 2024, April, but before then there's a pilot. And the pilot really has 2 key functions. It's to build confidence across those 4 customer groups so that everybody understands what this is, how it works, what needs to happen, and then we and everyone can take learnings from it and make sure it's refined and ready. Over the next, right now, the pilot is there, but it's very, very small, and it's completely effectively by invitation from us. And we're going to continue that through into 24. We're going to open it out to more software developers, and it's going to be targeted at a smaller but wider group of taxpayers that we can target and make sure that we're getting the lessons that we need to understand through that. And then it will widen out. It will widen out over 22 into 23, so that in 24 we're able to do the full tax year of quarterly reporting, end of year calculation, take all of the lessons in from that and make sure that we are ready for April 24. We're just going through some final bits of planning around exactly what 25 looks like for partnerships and so on. And there is more to follow over that. And as we go through that, we'll absolutely bring everybody along with those plans and make sure there's as much transparency as there possibly can be.
Brilliant, thank you. Maybe this time I can switch up the order and bring you in first, Cameron, and just get an insight into how you're thinking and what you're doing already on ITSA.
We believe at Morgan Reach that ITSA is absolutely vital for us to get the tax simplification done for our clients and for them to get a real value in terms of where they are, where their businesses are, or where they are as individuals for tax. And our commitment to that is very simple. We are very proactive in educating our clients, but at the same time, we're doing everything we can to work with HMRC, with QuickBooks, with any other partners that we can do strategically to be part of this initial phase. So we are educating ourselves before this goes live, and whatever we can do in terms of its implementation, educate ourselves internally, then educate our clients well before this all goes live.
Brilliant. And Judith, anything else to add?
I think from our point of view, there's it's going to be challenging because there is an awful lot of people brought into it who won't necessarily believe that they are running a business. So the feedback we get from landlords that we've already mentioned it to is, why do I have to comply with a Making Tax Digital, which feels like a business tax when I'm not a business? I've just got a couple of properties that happen to be over £10,000 worth of income. So we've got the 2-pronged attack really of the businesses, the sole traders, the partnerships who are running a business and are probably already VAT registered, so they'll have experienced MTD for VAT already, and we feel that they'll be fairly easy to move over. It's more the landlords that we're struggling to find a full solution at the moment. So we are currently working with different providers and working out a three-pronged attack. So we'll have a solution for those who don't want to do anything, and therefore we will have to take that in-house, and there will be a higher cost to the client for us to do that, because we don't particularly want to use our time up doing returns every 3 months. There'll be a solution where we work with them, and then there'll be a solution where we train them and they go off and do it all by themselves. So that's our three-pronged attack really, but we're not quite there yet, because obviously the pilot is quite small at the moment, and not all software providers have their solution ready for the landlord side. So it's a bit of a working in the background, and then as soon as we develop which solution it is, we're then going to go hard and push that, and hopefully have people signed up doing it in 2023 as part of the pilot, so that come 2024 we've got them all ready. But that's the dream at the moment. It might not actually happen exactly like that.
Okay, thanks, Judith. Now, a number of questions, and Giles, I'll come to you first, and then I will open it out again, around the need for accountants to be able to see all of their customer client information in one place. The question says, I've heard that this is going to happen, so I guess over to you, Giles, to let us know where that's at.
So HMRC's got a program called Single Customer Account, and that is where there will be a single view for customers of all of their different taxes in one place at one time. So that is happening now, and I don't have the exact date when that will be available to everybody, but it is a program that is running, is part of HMRC's transformation, and I referred to earlier, where all of these programs are dovetailing together in order to deliver that step change for our customers, for taxpayers.
Brilliant. And we know that HMRC gets it, and we know that there's been a lot of discussion on this, but maybe just to give the two accountants on the panel a chance, just to reinforce the message, how important is it for you to be able to see your customers' information in one place? How will it help you? And maybe I can come to Cameron first again.
I think it's extremely important, because a lot of our customers have asked that question, and this is why all the other accountants are getting the same questions from clients, and how will this work? The beauty of it is we've got a few clients on mainland Europe, and they already have this system in place in places like Spain. So you can go in, and the one login will have absolutely everything on it. It's vital for us, because rather than scrapping around different bits of logins and different bits of areas for us to get information on a particular client, if it's in one place unified, it makes our life easier to work with our client, to give them the right advice in terms of where they stand in terms of what they owe, and also to be able to forecast where their business would need to be paying how much tax and how would it work. They have a good view, or they should have a good view what's in place to look at where they stand. And it gives them that comfort that they're not having a look at various logins. And I think that's important. That's very, very important towards a tax simplification process.
Brilliant. Judith?
Yeah, just echo that really. It's getting there for individuals and businesses being able to see multiple taxes in one place. But yeah, for accountants, you have a separate one for corporation tax, a separate view for the VAT, separate view. I mean, pay as you earn, we can barely see anything. It would be so much easier. Clients get very frustrated when they ring us up and ask us to check something, and we say, well, actually, we haven't got agent authorization for the VAT, but we have for corporation tax, and they can't understand how it's all one HMRC system. Why do you need separate authorizations for every single tax? And I guess it's because they're all on separate systems at the moment, which is why there isn't that one view. So yeah, if that could change, that would make accountants' lives an awful lot easier. So I definitely vote for that happening soon.
Brilliant, loud and clear. I think a really good question that's come in, Giles, and we've had a couple along these lines. There's lots of accountants on the line that's really keen to feed into the ITSA process, to share with you and HMRC their experiences, but also their expertise. How would you advise them to best get involved with what's happening on ITSA?
So we have a team that's dedicated to just that. And we are going through now, as we go into the pilot, there will be very, very close hand-holding to start with, to make sure that agents and taxpayers are absolutely taken through the process. It is a new process. So we're upping the communications, we're upping the hand-holding, and we're going forward in that way. With that, I'm also getting around the country. Recently, I was up in Newcastle speaking with 3 very different accountants, but all of whom will be embracing this digital journey themselves. And getting that feedback direct to me is really, really useful, and I'll continue to do that as well. I've spoken with Accounting Web and sort of embrace that in a very similar way as I am doing that today. So we are there, we are open. This isn't the days of the sort of Whitehall Mandarin in the pinstripe suit being behind an ivory tower. We're absolutely out there, and if we can do more, tell us.
Excellent, thank you, Giles. Now a question to Judith and Cameron. Are you seeing Making Tax Digital is becoming a trigger for businesses looking to enlist the help of an accountant for the first time? Would be great to get your take on that. Judith first, please.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we used to come across an awful lot of businesses who only ever came to accountants when something had gone wrong, or maybe we're having an investigation from HMRC, or we're coming to the end of the cycle of the business. Whereas now, yeah, they do seem to get a lot more interaction with us, and even come to like small businesses that probably would have just managed by themselves or tried to manage by themselves, coming through now. So yeah, I think in that respect, it has made us a lot more, I suppose, needed in a way at that smaller end. I do think there's an awful lot of misunderstanding by those small businesses about the cost of engaging with an accountant, and I think as a profession we've got to be very honest with people right from the start in terms of what fees and things are going to be there, and that's a challenge in itself because there's a bit of a pushback there, but certainly definitely a bit more interaction at the smaller end.
Okay, Cameron?
Absolutely agree with Judith. I completely resonate the same message. And I think during what Giles said, we had a volatile period during the pandemic. We saw a lot of uptake from a lot of individual clients and customers who probably engaged with an accountant once a year, but weren't really proactive enough. And during the pandemic, we had a huge surge of clients who approached us to say, could you help us because we're on the QuickBooks directory, or whatever, they found us on the web and said, we really need the help with it. The other thing I would add to it is, yes, we've got those clients come in, but these are the clients which are absolutely ripe because they haven't been supported in the past. And rather than looking at the cost, we've been able to convince some of them, I would say, not a major majority, but there is a lot of value working with accountants, and with the collaboration that they work with us, they can look at the reporting, they can look at the cash flow, profitability, investment in the business, if there's corporate finance to be looked at. So it's been a fantastic journey, even though people have come in the first time. Because they've come to us now, they've come with an open mind and they've become really good customers. And there is definitely an uptake with the MTD and people's willingness to work with the accountants and not just bookkeepers.
Brilliant. Okay, we've got 30 seconds left. So 10-second answer, Giles, on this one. I put you on the spot. 10-year tax strategy. What will the tax system look like in 10 years' time?
Much closer to the end user, where communication with HMRC is seamless.
Excellent. Perfect way to finish. Look, thank you all the panelists for joining today. We really appreciate your expertise and insights. I hope you, the audience, have got a lot out of this session. And thank you again to the Financial Secretary of the Treasury for opening up this session. There is loads of information on the QuickBooks website. If you want to find out more, go to quickbooks.com, quickbooks.intuit.com/UK/making-tax-digital/VAT software. There's an array of information there for you. Have a fantastic QuickBooks Connect. Thank you for joining us, and have a good end of your day. Thank you. Bye.